Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is exactly 8:30 a.m. This is News and Views on Salam Media, and we're going to now talk with Neeresh Badal. And this has to do with the Tutor Center registration. And we're also looking at the issue around Standards Commission for Independent Alternative Education Centers. We understand that Tutor Center registration has always been a hot topic of discussion. Talks about tutor center registration is increasing as the Bella Bill threatens the existence of these establishments, and that indeed is very worrying. Naresh, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. Naresh, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Can you hear me?
Very, very faintly, but I can hear you.
Naresh, I think let's try and reconnect. We'll go for a short ad break and try and get you on a better line.
Okay.
Okay, I can't hear you at all. You did say you can't hear me
No, I can hear you, but very faintly.
very faintly. I'm wondering if we should reconnect. Let's just try reconnecting, please.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll take a short ad break. Stand by.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic Sharia and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
At 8:32 a.m., we try and reconnect with Neeresh Badal. We are going to be looking at tutor center registrations and micro cottage schools, commonly referred to as tutor centers. Naresh, very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, so give us the background to this story, and where does the Standards Commission for Independent Alternative Education Centers stand on this particular matter?
So, remember, according to the South African Schools Act and the Constitution, every person has the right to start an independent school, and it must be registered. The Bella Bill, Clause 33, seeks to impose penalties from 6 months to 12 months for people who establish or operate independent schools that are not registered by the Department of Education. Now, the challenge comes in that the registration process is somewhat cumbersome for small micro centers because the requirements are written for big schools. And a lot of these small centers do not meet these requirements of what provincial requirements are, rezoning certificates, fire and safety certificates, and then it's the Umalusi registration fee. Again, many of them cannot afford to pay because that fee on its own amounts to over 100,000 dirhams in the application process.
Okay, I do apologize, but I seem to be getting a lot of crackling on my side. Let's try and do the best we can regarding this interview. My controller seems to be very cross with me because he seems to think that everything's clear on their side. So I do apologize for that. I hope that you can hear me clearly.
No, I
Can
can.
you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so talk to us about why is the Bella Bill opposing, opposing these micro cottage schools? Is it not in the interest of us as South Africans and tutor centers. Is it not in the best interest of South Africans to have these centers up and running?
So the first issue is that it's always been law that tutor independent schools must be registered to operate. But recently, there's been an increase in the number of tutor centers that there are. And tutor centers have been in existence for over 25 years since homeschooling became legal. But the problem is that over the years, the number of tutor centers exploiting parents has increased. The number of complaints that the Department of Education is getting about tutor centers is increasing. And the big thing is that a lot of tutor centers pretend to be schools and they mislead parents. And when there's a problem, they start complaining, and that's when the Department of Education feels they're forced to take action. And the only action that they can really take is by shutting these schools down.
Okay, but I also understand that it seems to be good news, and that is something called Let's Do It Together for Education. Tell us more about them, and if this gets implemented, will the tutor centers then be protected as far as the Bella Bill is concerned?
So, Let's Stay Together for Education is a registered non-profit organization. We've been in existence for many, many years, and some of the listeners may already know about us because we've been interviewed many times for work that we've done. What we started is a Standards Commission for Independent Alternative Education Centers. Now, the Standards Commission basically is a quality assurance body. And what we've proposed to the Department of Education is that since many of these independent micro centers cannot the requirements for registration. And many of them, we must be honest, are filling the gaps in the schooling sector. So instead of just shutting them down, let us rather quality control them. And by quality controlling them, we can address the concerns that the Department of Education has. And those concerns being learner safety, the curriculum implementation, curriculum delivery, and the quality of education. And through this process, although we don't have a mandate or authority from the Department of Education to accredit any school or any center, we can then say to the Department of Education that yes, although the center is operating illegally, they are operating at the same level as an independent school, and they are still offering the same quality of education that an independent school is offering. So what we are trying to do with government at the moment is we are asking government to allow us to quality control these centers. And remember, these centers generally cater for learners registered as homeschooling. Now, by definition, a learner who is registered for homeschooling is the education of a child in his or her own home. So these kids shouldn't be going to a tutor center. And what we now think to the Department of Education is, if you allow us to quality control these centers, then these kids who are attending these centers will not register for homeschooling. They will apply for a Section 4 exemption from schooling. And we will then maintain a list of all learners at these centers, which we will provide to the Department of Education, so the Department of Education is aware of where these learners are. Also, the Department of Education is concerned about quality of education, and assessment has been a very big issue with the Department of Education and how learners are being assessed. So from talks that we've had with DBE already, they've asked us to implement common assessments at the end of the phases, so grades 3, 6, and 9. The Standards Commission would then do assessment. So it doesn't matter whether a center is in Kenton, in Durban, in Cape Town, Benoni, Indonesia, or Robert Chen, but all those learners would write the same grade 3, 6, and 9 examinations under the same conditions, and they would then be assessed fairly.
But currently, as we speak, you also lack official recognition or accreditation from Umalusi. That's the one point. And then the other point is we've known that for a very long while, there's been all sorts of fly-by-night schools and colleges springing up all over the country, in all of the major cities. And sadly, parents fork out huge sums of money thinking that they're sending their children to reputable accredited institutions, only to find that at the end of term the kids have no qualifications. They have no pass, no certificates to enable them to further their studies. So it is really being done in the interest and the protection of our children and parents from further exploitation, is it not?
So, first of all, yes, you're absolutely correct. We have no authority, like I said, to accredit any independent school. According to South African law, the Gender Further Education Training Quality Assurance Act gives Umalusi the mandate to accredit any independent institution that offers NQF level 1 to NQF level 4 courses or certificates. Now, remember, compulsory schooling is from grade 1 to 9. And at the end of grade 9 is a school exiting certificate, which is an NQF level 1 qualification. So, subject to how things go with the Department of Education and our schools, the minister could give a regulation that could allow us to accredit these independent centers. On the other hand, what you are saying also is that, yes, there are many bad centers out there who are exploiting parents, and that's the big concern, that parents are not aware that these centers are not registered at schools, and these centers don't tell parents that. And after the parents have spent money and the learner has spent several years, the problem comes back, like I said, and then it ends up at the Department of Education, and then they're forced to take action and close the center down. So with SCI-AEC, the Standards Commission for Independent Alternative Education Centers, what we've done is, remember, in our current frameworks, in our current policies, in our current laws, there is no definition of what a microcenter is other than it's an illegal institute. So we provided a definition within our framework for what a microcenter is. And we've then reframed or retermed these centers as independent alternative education centers. So those centers that register with the Standards Commission will be regarded as independent alternative education centers. The emphasis being on independence of mainstream education and that they are offering alternative education to mainstream education. And by doing this, by calling them independent alternative education centers, we can then separate the good from the bad tutor centers. And we can create a database where parents who want to send their kids to an independent alternative education center can then contact us and ask, is that center registered with you? Are they quality controlled? Is my child going to get a quality education from the center? And those centers that are expecting parents, obviously they'll be on a naughty list, and parents will then be able to inform decisions. Also, it will give parents an opportunity to be able to lodge complaints with us against tutor centers that are registered with us. And we'll be able to help parents in that regard as well.
So you call yourself independent alternative education centers. Why the word alternative? That could be quite misleading. It might also be suggesting that alternative is addressing children with special needs, maybe. That's the one question. And then also, how many such centers have you got running throughout the country? And because you haven't yet been recognized by and accredited by Umalusi, is it viable for parents to then enroll their children at these centers? Because what if Umalusi or the Department of Education decide not to go ahead and accredit SCI-AEC? That would be time and money and other resources lost as far as families and yourselves are concerned.
So on your first question on why alternative education centers, alternative education, remember when you're applying for registration for homeschooling, you are applying for alternative education, alternative to mainstream public or independent schools. Alternative not necessarily means special needs schools. Alternative also was chosen because a lot of parents now are moving away from CAPS curriculum. People are doing eclectic homeschooling. People are doing Cambridge. People are doing American high school diploma. A lot of grade 10, 11, 12 learners are following the GED pathway instead of CAPS pathway. So the term alternative caters for everyone. Whether or not the Department of Education or Umalusi accredits SCI-AEC, at the end of the day, does it make it different whether you're sending your child to school or to a quality control micro center that's offering quality education. So
Okay, then
that's
how
what
many,
parents recognize us. You know, at the end of the day, it's about the parents having peace of mind that the center they're choosing to send their children to is offering quality education. And even if Delabo goes ahead, and even if the Department of Education or Umalusi rejects the framework that we are offering, tutor centers are going to continue to exist. They're just going to move further under the radar. And then it will become more problematic because then there will be free to exploit parents as they want.
sadly, will the qualifications or the certificates that the kids come out with, will it then be recognized at all by Umalusi? Will they then be able to move on into tertiary? How many such
So
centers do you have?
remember, we only,
Can I just
we
can
only
I just put another question to you? How many such centers have you got throughout the country, and for how long are you in operation?
okay. So remember, we only quality control centers from grade 1 to 9 or from grade R to 9 if Delabo go through. Grade 10, 11, and 12 is no longer compulsory education, it's more than the further education and training. And in order to do grade 10, 11, and 12, you have to register with an examination body. And there's only 3 examination bodies in South Africa. So MSc, which all public schools and some private schools use, IEB, and SCI. We've seen the disaster with SCI with the most recent matric examination. So we don't do grade 10, 11, and 12. We only do up until grade 9. And most curriculum service providers reports or end of year reports are accepted by the Department of Education. But
Ah,
as for Belabo, at the end of grade 3, 6, and 9, learners have to be assessed by an independent, competent assessor. And those assessment reports will allow learners from grade 9 to go into college or to go into grade 10, 11, and 12 to return to mainstream schools if they have to. In terms of numbers, there is no research that was done to say exactly how many centers are out there. But based on what we know with the number of centers, I can tell you that in South Africa currently there's about 2,200 registered independent schools, but there are close to over 3,000 micro-cottage centers that are running. So there are far more independent micro-cottage centers than there are private schools.
okay, so let's ask this all important question. Up to the time when the kids get to grade 9, and they were in a micro cottage school or homeschooling or whatever environment they were in, um, do they have any challenges then attending an Umalusi or Department of Education, a recognized, accredited system where they can ease into quite comfortably? And the learning and teaching levels, are they similar across the board? Do they match what the state and Model C is offering to our schoolgoers?
So if I understand you correctly, you're asking whether or not the centers are offering that type of education and if those learners are capable or ready for grade 10, 11, and 12.
Mm-hmm.
To answer it that way, learners who are attending good centers and centers that are offering quality education and doing the right thing, yes, those learners are ready and those learners do succeed. And many of them go on to completing grade 10, 11, and getting access to university. But there are those learners in bad centers, and some centers don't teach all the subjects. You know, we've had a problem with a center recently where the grade 9 math teacher wasn't qualified. She was an ECD teacher, had no idea about math. And all the teachers were getting 80 and 90%, but when the parents tried to put the child in a private school, the child failed the entrance examination at their private school. And that became a big issue, went all the way to the Department of Education. The center got a letter to shut down. So with the SCI Act, if we can quality control centers, we can then ensure that the quality of the education that the centers are getting, that the competence of tutors in the centers are able to teach the learners, and the learners will receive an education that is equivalent to what the private schools are offering. And then the learners, irrespective of which center they come out from, will be able to progress in grade 10, 11, and 12, and they will succeed further on.
So these cottage schools that we're talking about, obviously for them to get the type of protection or support rather being the being the correct wording here, to get the support from SCI-AEC, what is it that they ought to do? Do they register with you? Do they pay a fee? What other type of support would you give these cottage schools?
So at the moment, we have a process where they apply for registration. We do an on-site inspection or an on-site visit of them. And then there is a fee of 9,000 rand, which is for 3 years. So basically, it equates to 3,000 rand per year. They can pay it off over 32 debit orders, and the 2 additional debit orders is to cover the cost of banking fees. In return for that, what we offer to them is support, obviously. We help them to develop, help them to bring them to a state that is equivalent to what a private school would be offering. We help them with their policy development, and we've got a number of training courses that have developed, which we then roll out to them to improve the services that they are offering to parents. And over and above the supplementary teaching material that we give to them so that they can use to teach the learners at those centers.
Naresh, what if you find, and I'm sure you might have come across this, over time, that a cottage school is not complying, they're just not meeting the mark? Um, you've also indicated a teacher that was not qualified to teach maths, etc. What action do you take against that cottage school?
So obviously the first thing is to engage with the cottage school to find what is going on, what is the problem. Some centers they don't do per grade teaching, they do per phase teaching. So they have a classroom that's mixed with grade 1, 2, and 3 learners, and they teach around working with small groups of kids, and that's fine. We don't have a problem with that, but we need to make sure that the teacher is giving the grade 1 learner the content that they need to learn, is spending sufficient time with each of those different grade learners. But the big problems come in where centers don't want to teach subjects like life orientation. In the senior phase, they don't want to do technology. They don't want to do creative art. And I understand, in certain regards with religion, the music and the dance is a problem. And we try and look away from that and work out alternatives to that. But a lot of centers, and there's a common curriculum service provider amongst a lot of these centers, where they don't teach the kids the subject or the content. They give them the assignments and the examinations to go home and do a take-home task and then bring it back. And you find that the learners are then sitting on all 90% marks. And when you assessment of their child, although the report is saying 94% in mathematics for the year, the child can't score more than 30% in a baseline assessment, which is very, very concerning. So you question the tutor center then on what are they doing and how are they doing. And when you go and you look at the tutor center, you find that there's very little teaching being done regarding those subjects.
Okay, Neeresh, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Thank you indeed for talking with us this morning. And we do hope that more and more people get the necessary support and actually do sign up. And we're talking, of course, homeschools and micro cottage schools, which is a new terminology that I've just learned today, and that they do sign up with SCI-AEC for the necessary support and monitoring. Go well, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Julie. While I am on the air, if I could just please ask all the listeners, there are provincial hearings happening this week on Friday in Soweto, on Monday in Randfontein, and they are happening in other provinces. Please, people, come out and object to the bill. Come out and support, us in our fight against the bill.
Indeed, we do hope people do come out in their droves. Thank you indeed for your time once again. It is 8:54 News and Views on Salam Media, and I think after we take the news bulletin this morning from Zai Jadwat, we are going to be talking with Jackie Stone, PAC Secretary for Publicity and Information. We're going to be looking at their manifesto.